convertible GT3. Forget what the purists might say. I think this is a fantastic proposition. Hello one and all, and welcome to the new 911 GT3 SC. I suppose this is not an entirely new concept. The last 911 Speedster was essentially a convertible GT3, but this is kind of the first time that we've seen Porsche apply the standard 911 Cabriolet formula to the GT3 model line. And as I say, I think that sounds great. As a road car, as an engaging driver's car, the fact I can now put the roof down and enjoy the best part of any GT3, the engine, in terms of how it sounds, how it makes me feel even more. I mean, that's just fantastic. And especially because I think there's a good chance that this might be the last naturally aspirated GT3 that we see, or at least the last with this sensational 4-litre engine. There is so much to discuss today, but I cannot wait to find out what a convertible 992.2 GT3 is all about. During our press briefing the night before this drive, Porsche said that this car is a blend of the 991 911 Speedster, the 911 ST, and the current 992.2 GT3 Touring. At least in ideology, because under the skin, it is a 992.2 GT3 Touring. Nothing changes, except of course the roof now being made of fabric. The suspension setup is exactly the same, the engine is exactly the same, the steering is the same, the gearbox is the same 6-speed manual option. No PDK available on this car, more on that later. The only real difference is the weight. It's not even that different. The standard 992.2 GT3 Touring weighs in at 1,461 kilos. The SC, 1,497. Essentially the same as carrying a couple of large suitcases to the airport. To achieve that, Porsche had to combat the added weight of the folding roof system by stealing some lightweight front wings from the ST, making the lightweight magnesium wheels standard, the lightweight carbon ceramic brakes standard, having no rear seat option, boo, having the door cards from the Touring's Lichtbau package. I mean, the list goes on. But if you think they've just stuck the GT engine in the Cabriolet, that is not it. They've just applied the Cabriolet formula to the GT3. Anyway, now we've got the boring stuff out of the way, let's get into some initial impressions. I'm sorry, but yes, straight away, yes. Whoever thought that this would be a bad idea? 9,000 RPM, a manual gearbox, and no roof. I didn't think it was possible for a GT3 to be more exhilarating, but this 992.2 generation with its incredible front end and this steering and its directness, but now with this soundtrack that you can access more of, it's, I mean, just listen to it. This is the cure. This is the cure for everything that has gone wrong with the automotive industry in recent years. I am 3 minutes into this drive, people. Yes. Oh God, I need to buy one, don't I? Oh no. Oh God, I'm gonna have to buy one. Oh, this is just right. Now, despite the fact it's the summer, we are expecting some rain today, maybe even some thunderstorms, which will be very interesting on these Michelin Cup 2 sort of semi-slick tyres. But yeah, there's a few drops in the air. And the advantage that this car has over the 911 Speedster, of course, is the fully automatic roof. So if I drop my speed slightly, pull this button in the center console, the roof can go up and down in about 12 seconds. And you can do it 50 to 60 kilometers an hour. And that just increases the usability of this car. It's a car for every occasion. And I think there is some argument, maybe even justification, for having like a full hardcore roll cage Visac pack or Manti racing wing car for the hardcore driving, and then an SC for the cruises. Quite hard to cruise in a GT3 SC. You do still want to go flat out everywhere, but do you get what I'm saying? I mean, I would have both. I would have both. Anyway, hopefully this little rain is going to blow through and we get the roof back down because, yeah, I haven't come to drive a GT3 Cabriolet with the roof up all day. Well, there's a tiny bit of rain in the air, but I'm keeping the roof down because this is one of my favourite stretches of road in this area. It's a little damp on the ground, so I'm going to be a touch careful, but it's my first real chance to actually crack on in this car and see if the roofless nature or the slight added weight makes a difference to the overall driving experience. Now, of course, underneath this car, it's essentially a GT3 Touring, a 992.2 GT3 Touring. So slightly different to the car that I actually own. We've got the, I would say, slightly more weighted steering. It's actually not more weighted, but it's got less directness sort of off-center than the shorter gear ratio. I mean, it's still all very familiar to me and fantastic, but the biggest thing is the compliance of the suspension. I have the ST upgrade on my car, makes it pretty great on the public road, but God, the dampers in this are sensational. As good as the real ST, if not a touch better. It makes it a delight. Oh, and okay, this is a fairly smooth road, but I've done some bumpy stuff today, and you can, wow, yeah, you can live with this car no matter what the surface. And then look at me out here. I mean, I'm sorry, but there is no part of flex that I'm feeling, no added weight that's pushing the front or making me feel lethargic. It is a GT3. I've just got the roof down, which makes it so great. It's not going to be coming across on camera, but it is a little bit, well, I say greasy, these conditions and these tyres. But that makes it exhilarating, I have to say. It's just... As I said at the beginning, they have nailed it. I mean, this is just what we want. It is pure driving. And of course, I'm going to say, I love this manual. It's how I spec my own car. But it would be great with a PDK, this thing. It's just such a sensation. And I do think being able to put the roof down means that you can enjoy this car at 6 or 7 tenths. It's not to say you can't enjoy a GT3 Touring or a winged car at the same level, but it just takes away some of that kind of, well, madness that I often feel behind the wheel of my own car, where I want to attack every single corner as if I was at Spa-Francorchamps or the Fuji Speedway in Japan. This thing does allow you to cool off for a minute and go, wow, what an amazing place. Well, I mean, look at this now, alongside the river and the gorges. And I think, oh yeah, we've got a tunnel. Check this out, boys and girls. This is ridiculous. Oh my God, someone sell me this car. Time to address the elephant in the room, or at least some comments I saw online when this thing launched. People essentially accusing Porsche of doing a cash grab, but I mean, of course they are. If they think there's a product they can make that people would buy, Why wouldn't they make it? They're a business. They're there to make money. What I believe this car represents is one final opportunity to buy a 911 with that engine. Because very soon, Porsche won't be able to make that engine. Regulations around the world are making it so hard for sports car manufacturers to make and improve on great naturally aspirated engines. I remember at the 992.2 to standard GT3 launch, the Porsche engineers spent like an hour explaining to us how much money they spent, how much time they spent reworking this engine to meet regulations, but losing as little performance as possible. And they did still lose performance. They were just clever enough to do other things like put a shorter gear ratio and, improve the overall drivability, whilst, as I say, as a bottom line on paper, reducing performance. I didn't realize that the weight of a vehicle and the emissions it can produce are linked. I don't know the exact numbers, but Porsche have made a big deal about this thing being sub 1,500 kilos. They've worked so hard at that because I think it has to be able to have that engine in it. So all this fun, lightweight stuff, the magnesium wheels, the carbon fenders from the ST, etc., because they have to have it. That's why it's standard equipment, not because you're getting more bang for your buck. Without it, the car goes over its emissions weight threshold, and sorry, you can't sell it. Even the manual gearbox, Porsche partly claim it's because they wanted this to be an engaging driver's car. Are they saying that their PDK variants aren't engaging? It's because the PDK would have been too heavy. They couldn't do it all. So my point being, I think we have to applaud Porsche for finding a way to make this work. Okay, maybe it's not perfect in our purist ideology of the 911 lineup, and a Speedster would have been so stunning, and maybe PDK would have been great, all of these things, but it's here, and it is sensational, and they did it. Well, I thought I'd quickly pop into the press launch lunch, not only so I could enjoy the quite incredible Swabian menu, but also to check out these cars in more detail. I'd been struggling on this day to kind of get to grips with the looks of the SC. Truth be told, I've never been a huge fan of any 911 Cabriolet. And whilst they have kind of beefed up the SC with the various GT3 panels, as in I couldn't quite get my eye in, one thing I do actually quite enjoy is the street style pack they're offering for this car, mainly because I love a Larry interior, and Porsche offering this from factory for a low-key £25,000. Yeah, I think I might just get this done aftermarket. Well, I parked up here to take some photos of the car, this kind of stunning backdrop, and I thought I'd take advantage of the moment to showcase Porsche's new infotainment system. They kind of low-key launched it with this car. It's going to be rolling out to other 911s later in the year, but it is an updated, upgraded system, and it includes a bit of a redesign for the digital dials behind the steering wheel. So long gone is the analog rev counter that you get in my 992.1. It's all digital now, and it is better because, as you can see from where I'm sitting, you can sort of view all the dials much easier than you could in previous generations of the 911. But yeah, apparently they've kind of, I don't know what, made this look a bit more analog, or increased the, I don't know what, look and feel. To me, it looks very similar to the car that I drove in Valencia. I don't really remember because it's been a while since I've spent time in a 992.2 GT3, but I mean, yeah, it looks nice. I don't love that it's digital, but I can get over it. The main changes have been here, as I say, to the sort of main screen and the home infotainment setup. So this will roll out into all 911s later in the year. You can see you've got some new icons here for various driver settings, suspension, exhaust, rev match, things like that. If you click all the icons here, graphics have kind of been updated, looks a bit different, looks a bit sharper. It's very, very rapid. Again, if you go into the kind of car settings, this has changed now. So you've got these kind of icons to push and engage with rather than before. Go into assistance, ADAS settings and things like that in there. Navigation all looks pretty good, but as you can see, it's super fast, and it probably did need updating the system. It's not revolutionary, I'm not going to get carried away with it, but just wanted to showcase it to you. So it's going to be in all the other 911s kind of moving forward. But apart from that, just like with any other 911 model, it's all very familiar. I mean, it just looks like really any other 911, or at least any other GT3. You get some nice pulleys on the door there, carbon fibre door handles. These are an optional extra in the GT3 Touring, but nice to see. And of course, the manual gearbox. And I really like this little GT3 SC badge that you get. Apart from that, not much to show you. So let's get back on the road. Well, I think I've made it clear that I like this car. Like, I really like this car as a road car. On a day like today, it's near perfection for me. Okay, there is still some things I prefer about my 992.1 generation GT3, largely the steering feel, and back-to-back on a track day against a caged, hardcore PDK GT3, would this thing maybe feel a bit different? Possibly, but I don't care. That's not why you're buying this. If you are buying a GT3 for ultimate lap time, don't get the SC. But if you want a road car that you can enjoy in so many different ways, this thing is so appealing. So, if you did want to buy one, how'd you go about it? Because let's face it, anything that has GT3 in the name, not straightforward. You can't exactly just walk into a dealership and say, I'd like one please, and that's no different for the SC. I spoke to a couple of dealers before coming out here for this drive, and both dealers only had one car in their sort of first run out of SCs, one car. And as you can imagine, those are already spoken for. So it's not going to be easy to go out and buy one of these things, and they're expensive. Maybe not as expensive as one might think. Okay, they start north of 200 grand, that's a lot. But if you were to spec a comparative GT3 Touring, there's not much in it. I was playing this game last night. Because these SCs come so highly spec'd as standard, because of their requirement to keep the weight down, if you wanted to have a GT3 Touring with similar options, there was only like 5 grand in it. By the time you've done the lightweight pack for the GT3 Touring that gets you the magnesium wheels, carbon ceramics, things like that, my GT3 Touring spec was 205, my SC was 210. And I think you could get away with a lesser spec'd SC. I don't think you'd have to go crazy because this is enough, just the experience. Can you hear the man maths working? I'm trying to justify an insane purchase that I can't really afford. And look, I'm not getting a slot, I'm not getting an allocation, I'm not that good a customer of Porsche. So it's that annoying game where I'm going to tell you this is a fantastic car, and if you're in that market, if you've got the money, go get one, but it's just not that easy, it's not that straightforward. And as much as I love it, I really haven't got to grips with the looks today. I mentioned it at lunch a moment ago, and I've wanted to, but every time I've got out of it, I'm like, and so would I really go and spend all that money to have a car that's maybe worse looking but funner to drive? I don't know. It's an amazing thing. I love that it exists. I know lots of you in the comment section will be like, he's paid by Porsche. It's a cash grab. Don't listen to him. What a waste of time. It's not. It's a wicked thing. It's an absolutely wicked thing that just looks a bit crap. But maybe some nice specs will come out and that will change my mind. Anyway, I'm very grateful for the opportunity as ever. I hope I've provided some level of insight. I've just had an absolute blast. Word of warning, quite a lot of Porsche content coming in the weeks ahead, just to give you a heads up. I apologise about that, but it's the way the channel goes at some point. So for now, I'm going to get out of this town and enjoy one last blast in this SC until hopefully one day in the future I get to have another go, and I will bite someone's hand off to have another go on one of these cars, because yeah, one last time, listen to this.